Hey guys, welcome to the Windlord Mel'Jarak video encounter guide. As always, I'm World Boss.
And I'm Meows.
Windlord is pretty much a two-phase encounter. The first phase, he has three different sets of ads. There are three types of ads. Each set of these ads at the same time have a shared health pool. Now, the trick is there are also racks on the wall. These racks will give you a spear, which gives you an extra action button. You can use this button to crowd control mobs. With all 9 mobs up, you can crowd control up to 4 of the mobs. When you kill a set of ads, you can only control 2. And if only one set of ads are up, you cannot crowd control any of them. Now the different ads are, the first set is the Amber Trappers. The Amber Trappers have 2 different abilities. The first one is an Amber Prison. Basically, it encases the player in amber. The trick is, anyone within 2 yards of them also gets encased. Now, the way you use this is the way you can break this out, you just run up to it, right click it, it'll pop you out, it'll give you a 2-minute debuff, however. So that is why it's so important that no one else is chain trapping other players. If you're a melee player, just quickly get out of melee. It's only 2 yards, you have a couple seconds to do so. The other debuff is called Corrosive Resin. It deals a small amount of nature damage to the player and it drops these pools you can see throughout the room. The pools only last for a minute or 2 before despawning. The biggest thing you just want to do when you get this debuff, get to the outer edge of the room and get these pools dropped out of the way. The Battle Menders have 2 different abilities. The first is, it's called Mending. It's interruptible. It heals whatever pack of mobs that they target for 35% of their maximum health. Needless to say, on your first few kills, if one of these gets off, you're not going to beat the enrage timer. So you really want to mark whichever one of these you aren't CCing. You really want to just mark them and have 1 or 2 melee focus them down. We used to do this to ensure that there were interrupts going on. The other is Quickening. It's dispellable. However, you do need a rotation of priests as it casts too often for one priest to handle the dispels by themselves. It increases all the mobs that are in the area of it, which is basically anything that's not CC'd, increases their attack speed by 25%. It does stack, so eventually it's going to basically become like a Bloodlust type buff. The final mob is the Blade Masters. They have one ability called the Corthic Strike. It deals a high amount of physical damage to the person's targeted. All Blade Masters will target that player and attack simultaneously. It doesn't happen very often. If you have a defensive cooldown, you do have time to pop this off if you react quick enough. What we did for the start of the encounter is we just crowd controlled 1 of each mob pack. We then marked the 2 menders and had 2 melee focus on those, focus their AoE and interrupts off of those. We grouped them all up and everyone just went all out AoEing so that we can bring the mobs down all at the same time or as close to possible. We popped Bloodlust to aid us in this task.
Healing for the ad phase of the encounter, really not much to comment on. The boss, though, does hit fairly hard, and as ads die, he does gain a buff that makes him hit even harder, so you do want to watch the tank that is tanking the boss as well as the off tank. As far as other damage going out, not too much that's really noticeable. Whirling Blade damage is, it's there if people are eating it. Otherwise, it's just really tank damage, and tanks can be focused by the ad's strike, so you do want to rotate externals on the tank for that in case it does come up. We had a couple of pulls where our tank basically just got gibbed because we weren't prepared for those strikes to be eligible to be used on tanks.
Now, the second phase of this encounter is basically once all the ads die. Once all the ads die, what we did is we pulled the Windlord to the middle of the room. Range stayed at maximum ranged, so that we had a little bit more room to work with the wind bombs. No ranged ever went behind the boss. That reason being the boss's abilities that he retains throughout the entire encounter. The one to really watch out for that is absolutely deadly at this point in time is Whirling Blade. Basically, he throws his weapon like a boomerang. He turns, points. You can see him where he's going to be throwing it. Throws it out. Deals a massive amount of damage to anyone in its path, and then it comes back to him. If you get hit both ways, you are dead. If you're not topped off at this stage in the fight and you get hit by it, you're probably dead. So really pay attention. Don't get hit by it. It's such an easy mechanic to avoid. The other ability he uses is throughout the entire encounter is Rain of Blades. Basically, it's like it says, it's a raid-wide damage, ticks every half a second for 6 seconds. During phase 1, it's really pretty irrelevant. However, after you've killed all the adds, it becomes something you need to plan some type of raid cooldowns around. Being physical damage, it makes it a little bit tougher, so you want to use personal cooldowns, health stones as one. If I remember correctly, what we did is the first one we used one of our DPS was Warrior's Rallying Cry with a Demo Banner and a Shaman's Ancestral Guidance. We did the same thing for a second. For the third one, I do believe we got a Power Word Barrier over the melee, along with a Shadow Priest's Vampiric Embrace and a Druid's Tranquility. And then the third one, I do believe we assigned everyone to use personal cooldowns, health stones, as well as another Vampiric Embrace from a Druid and Healing Tide Totem from a Shaman. At that point, our first cooldowns did come back up, so we were able to handle it in that way. Without having some type of raid-wide cooldowns, it will really make it much more difficult. Our Shadow Priests also attempted to hold our halos and try and be mindful of our halos to use during the Rain of Blades for the healing component of the mechanic. And that these are such big changes from 1 to 2 is that he gains a buff called Recklessness every time a set of adds dies. It increases his damage done by 50%. It also allows you to beat the enrage timer by AoEing the adds because it increases his damage taken by 33%. So once you've killed all 3 sets of adds, he's taking 100% more damage and he's dealing out 150% more damage. That's why these mechanics become deadly in the second part of the counter, and that's why your DPS, you'll be able to handle putting out the DPS needed. So don't worry about him being at 80-85% when all the adds are dead and you only have 4 minutes left. It's going to be enough time. Once he hits 75%, it gives him a Wind Bomb mechanic. He casts it on a random player in the raid. Now you can see throughout this encounter the little bombs going in the room. They stay until the encounter's over, and at the same token, if anyone hits them, it does 350,000 damage before it absorbs. 2 of these popping will kill you. 1 of these popping immediately after a Rain of Blades, during or just before, will kill you. You need to really avoid hitting these, and that's why you want your range at maximum range. As you start moving closer and closer to the boss, and then eventually your tanks will just pull the boss back to give you more room to work with.
Healing for the second phase of the encounter is pretty much the night and day difference between phase 1. Again, the tanks will be taking quite a bit more damage because of Recklessness. You do want to be rotating externals. I think we had a couple of Pain Suppressions and Hand of Sacrifice available for our tanks at any given time. The Rain of Blades, it's a lot of physical damage, as World Boss suggested, which makes it very hard to get proper cooldowns in place. You do want straight damage mitigation. Diva Aura is not going to do anything, except the problem I noticed with the healing was there's a lot of pushback involved with Rain of Blades, so you do want to be mindful of that and watch your GCDs. If you have a cooldown that prevents pushback, you definitely want to use it for each Rain of Blades. You do want your healers spread around the room so that the entire raid has a healer at their disposal. I think we had a couple of pulls where we had 1 or 2 ranged out of healing capabilities, so they just fell over. You don't want that to happen because the rage will be tight despite the buff on the boss. Wind Bomb damage, if someone is terrible and hits a Wind Bomb, you have to burst heal the raid up.
Well, that about wraps up our Windlord guide. I hope you guys found this helpful. As always, thumbs up, subscribe if you did find it helpful. If you have any questions regarding the encounter, do not hesitate to ask. We'll get on them right away. And good luck in Heart of Fear.